News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
News Talk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
Arrests made in a Montana decapitation case. Good morning. This is John King filling in for Peter Christian, who's a little bit under the weather this morning. Your news brought to you by Dig It Excavation, bringing 30 years of excellence to every job. Call 214-4292. Billings police say 2 men are in custody in the killing of a man whose decapitated body was found at an abandoned transient camp. The Billings Gazette reports that 31-year-old Donald Ray Cherry and 33-year-old Jeffrey Glenn Haverty were being held at Yellowstone County Detention Facility. Police declined further comment pending a court appearance today for the 2 men. The body of 41-year-old Myron Wesley Knight was found November 15th. Deputy County Coroner Cliff Mahoney said Knight had been decapitated and suffered multiple blunt force trauma injuries. Last week, Missoula police were called to a hotel in the 2700 block of Expo Parkway because employees found what they believed to be drugs in a bag that had been turned into the front desk. Employees turned the bag over to police and used surveillance camera footage to determine who had dropped that bag. Police Public Information Officer Travis Welsh takes up the story from there.
She belonged to a group that, in fact, was renting 3 rooms adjacent to each other. The officers went to one of those rooms and made contact with the woman who identified the bag as being hers, and she was subsequently arrested for possession of dangerous drugs. That person is identified as 25-year-old Mariah Bigelow.
Welsh says that a 15-year-old boy was also in the room with Bigelow. It was later determined that the boy is the son of Bigelow's boyfriend. The boy's father was not present, but a 36-year-old female named Jenny Rogers was in the room next door.
Obstructing a peace officer and criminal trespass, as she had been told that she was to leave the hotel by staff, and she had refused to go. She also had provided fictitious names and dates of birth to the officers when they were trying to interview her.
According to Welsh, Bigelow received a felony charge for endangering the welfare of children because the 15-year-old boy was exposed to methamphetamine. The boy was turned over to Child Protection Services until he could be returned to his father. The Missoula County Attorney's Office processed 15 felony cases this past week. County Attorney Kirsten Pabst details the violent crimes.
There were 3 violent offenses involving a sexual abuse of children case, and then 2 not involving family at all, assault with a weapon. The defendant allegedly pulled a box cutter on police officers who were responding to his burglary in progress. And then there was a robbery case that we charged.
Pabst says there were 2 child endangerment charges, as well as a case of endangering the welfare of a child, as well as a bunch of property crimes.
Quite a few property crimes, 2 thefts, one of which the defendant cut off his TAD unit, which is a court-ordered alcohol monitoring device. And then there were 2 criminal mischiefs, one involving the defendant allegedly taking a shovel, smashing out a vehicle's window, and then smashing out a window at the Poverello Center.
Beyond that, there were a handful of meth cases and 2 tampering cases, one of which involved a man that allegedly assumed an old roommate's identity for over a year. Well, let's get some good news. How about it? Missoula businesses, school children, and the general public are working together to give veterans some Christmas cheer through the Santa Socks program. Susan Campbell-Renault from the United Veterans Council explains.
We ask our community, both businesses and individuals, to donate new pairs of socks. We take warm pairs of socks, we stuff them, and then this year, Washington Middle School and Russell Elementary children have created the most beautiful cards thanking the veterans for their service.
The knee-high socks are stuffed with candy canes, toys, and cards, but it's the hugs and the warmth of visitors that brings the most smiles. Since this is the 10-year anniversary of Santa Socks in Missoula, Renault says there have been many memorable deliveries.
We went to Riverside, and a very elderly Marine who had been confined to a wheelchair was presented a Santa sock by 2 young Marines that had just come back from Afghanistan. They presented the sock to him and said, "Semper Fi," and this man stood up out of his wheelchair and started singing the Marine Corps anthem. He said, "I received medals, I've received a Purple Heart, but this Santa sock means more to me than those."
Renault says that in many cases, these elderly veterans receive very few visitors. When the program started, they delivered to 150, but that number has climbed to 600 over the past decade. Donations can be dropped off at the Town Square Media headquarters here at 3250 South Reserve. They're asking for socks, old-fashioned green plastic army men, candy canes, and handwritten thank you letters, and other small items. On Friday, Bobby Houck was named the 37th head football coach for the University of Montana. Houck was in Missoula last Monday for an interview with athletic director Kent Haslam, who said the terms of Houck's contract were confirmed on Thursday. In the opening comments of both athletic director Kent Haslam and Coach Houck, they emphasized their displeasure over the treatment that Lisa Davey had received from online bloggers for initiating a petition drive seeking to prevent Houck's hiring.
There's no room for harassment in Grizz Nation. None whatsoever. I want to be clear, there's no place for it, especially in college athletics, and especially in a place we all love so dearly. Lisa Davies entitled to her opinion and should not fear. That is not who we are. We are known for so many wonderful things here, and sportsmanship and respect are at the top of that list.
Houck echoed Haslam's comments.
What's not okay is I was told this morning that in the paper, Miss Davey had some commentary, and everyone has a right to their opinion, and she should not have been attacked for sharing those opinions. I mean, it's an American right and a liberty we have to voice that, and respect is a core value. We're going to all treat each other with dignity and respect around here.
Houck was Montana's head football coach from 2003 to 2009 with an overall record of 80-17 and a 42-7 Big Sky Conference record. He replaces Bob Stitt, who was fired 2 weeks ago after missing the playoffs and losing to the Montana State Bobcats for 2 years in a row.